I'm Rob Shields, and this is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. Michelle Kasper launched the Euro Jigsaw Jam virtual competition series within 4 months of having her passion for speed puzzling ignited by a YouTube video, despite never having seen an online competition herself. In this episode, we talk about what it took to bring the idea together, the vibrant community that makes it happen, and what led her to creating her own puzzle. Michelle Kasper, thanks for joining Peace Talks.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to talk to you, but let's jump right in and begin at the beginning. What are your earliest jigsaw memories?
So I grew up in New Zealand, and I think the first puzzle that I really remember was a gift from my parents. It was one of those maybe like 100-piece puzzles in a cardboard frame, and it was of a map of New Zealand, and around the border was like Maori patterns, so with the black, red, and white patterns.
Oh, cool.
And it was like the theme was like native wildflowers and maybe some birds as well. But I just remember it was really pretty and really fun. I don't think I had many puzzles as a child, but that's the only one that I distinctly remember.
A 100-piece puzzle, that's a fair amount of pieces. Do you remember how old you were?
Maybe like 6 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 6, somewhere between 6 and 10. Yeah.
Were puzzles much of a presence in your life between that time and moving forward?
Not really. I mean, if I kind of look back on my life, I kind of see like this thread of puzzles, but like it wasn't so obvious. My parents didn't have much money, so we didn't have like loads of toys or loads of games. We played a lot of card games, and obviously you can get a lot out of a pack of cards.
Sure.
I remember as a teenager, we had a jungle puzzle. I think it was, possibly even round, but it was definitely random shape. I remember that. Because I love jungle puzzles to this day. I love toucans and red and blue parrots, the cheetah and the panther and the bright greens. And I remember we had this particular puzzle and I loved it and did it over and over again. And I just remember like trying to do like the tail of the tail feathers of the parrot. They had some really, funky shapes that didn't click into each other. I didn't know back then it was random. I only learned that random cut since doing speed puzzling, but I love that puzzle. And then the other puzzle that I really enjoyed as a teenager, I think it was a gift from my grandfather. It was a 1,000-piece puzzle, and it was all like basically a table with all types of vintage cameras, camera equipment, sepia photos and photo frames, so all kinds of like vintage camera paraphernalia. And
that's cool.
I did that multiple times, but those are like the only puzzles I remember. And we also played board games, but it's not that we owned a ton of puzzles. And then there was like a huge gap until basically a few years ago.
Fair to say that in the early days, you were not trying to go particularly fast. You were in it for sort of the joy of creating a picture out of a bunch of random pieces.
Yeah, I think it was about just enjoying a really nice picture and taking time to do it. I remember with the 1,000-piece puzzle, like it was in the summer holidays, and I remember my brother was playing outside with his friends and building like a tree fort or doing outdoorsy stuff. And even though it was summer, I was quite content just to be at my desk at the window doing this 1,000-piece puzzle for like the 10th time. Yeah, so I've always enjoyed it, but I guess because I've been traveling so much, like for many years of my life. So basically, as a young adult, I left New Zealand. I went to study in Australia. Then I was in Dubai, and then I met my husband and then moved to Germany. And then I had basically babies straight after that. So when I was traveling, I didn't own a single puzzle. When I was, flatting with friends and random people, I didn't buy any puzzles. It was not something I even thought about. And then like if you have small kids, like you tend to avoid things with small pieces. Yeah, so it was like for many, many years, it didn't even cross my mind to do a puzzle. But it was something I always enjoyed. Like if I don't know, like when I think back about my brother, he played a lot of video games. He always liked the games with like where you fight people and go on missions and collect items. And the games that I actually enjoyed were like Tetris and Columns. So kind of puzzle-like games.
Sure, yeah.
But I just didn't have the same motivation to do all the other stuff. But I think looking back, I had a tendency towards enjoying puzzles, but it was only like recently that it kind of got sparked again.
Yeah, so tell me what that moment was. How did you get back into, or into really for the first time, puzzles?
Well, every year at Aldi's supermarket in Germany, so always before Christmas, they always have a selection of puzzles. So just before, like the month before Christmas, they always do like typical Christmas gifts, puzzles, board games, and things like that. And I remember going past every year, and it would catch my eye. The puzzles would catch my eye, and I would look at them, and it would be like 50% sky, no thanks. 50% forest, nope. And they had the typical like Ravensburger images or like typical landscape pictures, and I was just like, no, I'm not even gonna even attempt that, even though I was curious, but it was like, no, I'm not even gonna bother doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one year there was a picture that was just like, this is so me. It was like a tabletop with Asian food, with vegetables, with spices. And like there was like even like a poke bowl in the corner, like really rich colors and all kinds of patterns of food. And so I was like, I thought about it in my mind, and I was like, okay, the kids are old enough; they're not going to eat it. They're not. They're not going to like pull my puzzle apart if I leave it on the table. Okay, I think I can do this. And so I bought that puzzle, absolutely loved it, and the kids even helped me to do it. And yeah, so I guess it started with that puzzle, but I didn't go out and buy any more. That was like my puzzle for the winter.
Mm-hmm. But it sort of reconnected you with an idea that might be interesting. Like your past with puzzles and you're sort of maybe sitting in the back of your mind is now something that you might engage with that you hadn't really thought about before. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was like I was hoping for it, but like just the images that I had seen the previous years, it was like I knew that I didn't want to do 50% sky or trees. Like there was no interest for me. And it was the image that drew me in and made me realize, okay, I can do this.
What tipped you over the edge to becoming really interested in puzzles?
I think it was like gradual. Like I think the year after, then maybe they had a Disney puzzle there, which I got and I did with my kids. And then maybe I bought 3 puzzles that winter, and the following year maybe I bought another 2. But I remember at some point this ad kept on popping up on Facebook about wooden puzzles. And I did
Oh
end
yeah.
up buying a few wooden puzzles from this Facebook ad. And I remember we just had so much fun. And like these were smaller puzzles, like
Mm-hmm.
250 pieces. But my kids just loved them, and I could enjoy them as much as they could. So they had all the wonky shapes, like pieces that kind of like wrap around each other. And so also random cut with like a shaped border, so not a square border.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was so I was starting to build my collection. So maybe every year or so I was adding like another 3 or 4 puzzles. And then in January 2024, a Karen's puzzle video popped up on my feed about the World Championship, and then that just opened a whole new world for me.
Had you been following Karen puzzles up until then, or was it just a random suggestion?
That was completely random. I mean, I would not have even thought to look for puzzles on YouTube.
Yeah, the mysteries of the algorithm.
Yeah. So, and my sister was, sorry, my daughter was sitting next to me, and we're like, "Oh, World Championship. Okay, let's watch this. This sounds interesting. Puzzles. I like this." And I was hooked. It was like the first episode. I was like, "Okay, I need to watch more." And then the second episode, like I think I just watched like 2 straight after each other, and then it was time for my daughter to go to bed. And then I already looked at my calendar, and I was like, "Okay, September. Yeah, there's
Wow,
nothing."
it was that fast.
Yeah, it was like after 2 hours, I was like, let me check these dates. I have time then. I could go there. But I didn't, I mean, I just put it into my calendar, kind of like penciling it in.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to my cupboard of puzzles, which had about 10 puzzles. And I was like, okay, I need a 500-piece puzzle. I had one 500-piece puzzle from Gallison. And then I went to the Ravensburger website and I ordered like 500-piece puzzles that had been used in the 2023 championship. So ones that I had just seen in the live stream that I watched in the recap video.
Do you have any idea what so transported you about that concept? Because again, you'd been sort of like, an annual puzzle, a new purchase. Maybe you did a couple of puzzles. Tell me if this is not true over the course of the year, like maybe did those puzzles again over the course of the year. Um, one video and you're already looking to see if you can make it to Worlds. What drew you in so hard?
Well, Karen just made it sound so exciting.
She does do that.
Yeah, and I think it was also just this accessibility. It was like, okay, I went to the World Jigsaw Champion website, and it's like, okay, you need to pay 40 euros and just get yourself on a plane to Spain. Like that is
Right.
such a low bar to get there. I mean, obviously for people on the rest of the world, it's a really big commitment. But for someone living in Germany, like it's really just a small kind of hop, skip, and a jump over to Spain. And I'd never been to Spain before, and I always thought, oh, I thought it'd be really nice. It just all kind of fell in together, and it was like I could do this. It's like as long as I'm not last, like I could participate in a world championship. Yeah, just the whole idea of it just sounded kind of hilarious, kind of like I didn't even know it was on my bucket list to go to a world championship, but I'm gonna tick it off.
Now I gotta ask: have there been other instances of this kind of instant passion for you, or is this the one example?
When I get into something, I do get a bit obsessive about it.
Hmm.
Well, my other hobbies, so previous hobbies were like running and gardening, foraging, food preservation. So when I do get into a topic, like I get into it quite a lot. I read the books, I watch the videos, I get all the paraphernalia, and I dream about it. And yeah, I just can't let it go.
Wow, that's amazing, or terrifying, depending, I suppose, on what the hobby is. How does your family react to these things, or is it transparent to them, or are they like, "Oh, here she goes"?
Yeah, my husband knows that like I get into something really big. He just know, the thing is it doesn't matter if it's business related or hobby related. When I get grand ideas, he's the one who kind of ends up doing it or making it happen. Like it's like when I'm with gardening, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to plant all these vegetables and I'm going to yeah grow my own herbs and all these things. But yeah, Eric, you need to build the raised beds and he has to get it set up. So he's always there, kind of like helping me fulfill my dreams. But he,
Wow, I need an Eric in my life.
so it's also like with the business, like with the business ideas and things. It's like he's always there in the background, but I mean, he's always very supportive, and I always have to have a good case, and then he's on board. So I was like that day I didn't tell my husband that. Like I told my kids the next day that, and I was like, I was thinking in my head, okay, how do I, you know lead towards, hey, maybe I should go to this world championship and you can stay here with the kids for a week. Yeah, so I was just basically, that night I had already basically decided in my mind I want to do this. I'm going to order the puzzles, and but then I still waited a week before I said, hey, I'd really like to go to this.
just to make sure that you were really well and truly obsessed with it before you actually
Yeah.
committed.
Well, no, I waited for the puzzles to arrive, and then I
No,
did
because you
London,
already knew.
and then I did London postcard, and I was like, wow, I did this in like 1 hour and 10 minutes. Like I could go to, yeah, like I was like, yep, okay, I'm good enough. And then so I basically, yeah, told my family, hey, I could go to the world championship. I did this under 90 minutes. Then I did the Matsamimi. It's with all the chairs and tables,
Yes. Hmm.
and that took me over 2 hours. And then I did lupines, and that took me over 2 hours. And I was like, okay, maybe I
You
should.
went
Maybe,
you went to both ends of the spectrum there. It was like the fastest puzzle and some of the hardest puzzles that have ever been in Worlds.
yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not so good. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Like I thought maybe I just had this natural talent that, but I think that London postcard does that to you.
It does, but how did you know at that point that you said it was like an hour ish that you completed that one? How did you know that that was a time that was reasonable for Worlds?
Because it was mentioned multiple times during the recap video that the time limit was 90 minutes.
Okay, so you were like, if I can do it in an hour, then I got 30 extra minutes to spare there, so I'm obviously not going to be terrible.
Yeah, so I also went straight away to the results list, And I
Of
looked at
course.
it, and of course there were also people that didn't finish it at all. So I placed somewhere like midway. So I was like, that's good enough.
When you got the when you when you ordered the puzzles, did you already have a sense that you were going to be fast enough to participate to the level that you would be comfortable in, or was that not really something you understood until you got the postcard puzzle?
I was convinced that I could uh, do at least a couple of the puzzles under 90 minutes. I knew that photo puzzles is something I've always, yeah. I mean, we did have some other puzzles as a kid. Like in the old days, my brother had some 1,000 piece puzzles, and it was just like a picture of some boats, but it was like 50% sky and 30% water. And so I knew those puzzles are hard. And like at some point, we just gave up. And of course, I had a really bad piece cut. So I knew I would struggle more with the photos, that they were just harder. And it's not something that I could, like, I'm more of a visual person. I like to see all the details. So and now I know I can say I'm good at busy puzzles. Understandably, I didn't do so great with the photo puzzles, but London
The ones you were
Postcard,
afraid of to begin with.
yeah, but London Postcard was like, yeah, that's my style. That I like that.
So you saw the video in January. You ordered some puzzles. They got there, I'm going to say a week or so later.
Like 3 days later.
So you decided that this is a thing you could do. It's a thing you wanted to do. You're already penciling it into your calendar, but something must have been missing because in a very short period of time, you take a fairly radical action. What was the light bulb moment that you were like, something needs to be different here?
So the moment was when I realized I just wanted somebody to organize an online competition that I could participate in, and it just wasn't available. And I looked at the participant list and I said, there are at least 500 Europeans going. At least some of these people will have the same feeling as me. They will also want somebody to organize something. And if nobody else is doing it, then maybe we should. That was 2 weeks after Karen's video.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I was asking about the timeline, is because by my records, the first competition of Euro Jigsaw Jam was like the middle of April. And if that is true, that is just a really short amount of time between you deciding that Worlds is a thing that you're interested in, trying some stuff to make sure that Worlds is something that you could reasonably to your standards compete in, to deciding that there was a lack of opportunity in the market for virtual competitions in the European area, to then starting something up and then doing all of the work that must have been involved in starting something up and then launching it by April. You sort of hinted at the fact that this is not your first stab at an idea. Do you have a lot of prior experience starting up things, bringing ideas to execution, doing businesses?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we've been self-employed for 13 years. I started our business when my daughter was 1 year old. We went to New Zealand for a trip, and I discovered a product there that I had not seen in Germany. And I was, yeah, kind of like this, absolutely headfirst into this topic, reading all up about it, watching videos, trying to find out as much as I could. The product was modern cloth diapers or cloth nappies. So we were trying to live somewhat sustainably with a baby, and yeah, it just always bothered us. Like, you just have so much rubbish when you are using so many like disposable diapers. And so when I saw this product in New Zealand, and then I did my research and realized, oh, hang on, this is not really a thing in Germany, but in America it's huge, in Australia it's huge. Like, why is nobody offering this? Then maybe we should offer it. And I wasn't working because I had just come over to Germany. I was learning German, and then I had my basically had my daughter straight away, and my husband was still studying. And basically, on that trip, I said to my husband, look, I would really like to start a business to bring this product to Germany. And he's like, yep, okay, let's do it. And from that moment, well, while we were still on our trip in New Zealand, because we were there for several weeks, I was already researching. And when we came back to Germany, we started the business. But my husband was studying, and so I was kind of taking care of it with very terrible, limited Deutsch, but we managed. And so now we still own that business. So we're still one of the largest online stores in Germany for modern cloth diapers and other sustainable products for families. Over the years, it has developed. We have other products that we sell. But I think what's most important is that it was basically the right idea at the right time. And we have the infrastructure in place. So basically, I saw Karen's video. 1 week later, I basically presented the idea to my husband, like, okay, I really want to do this. I think I'm good enough. I really want to go to the Worlds. And then he agreed. And then I started looking. I was like, well, hang on. If I'm going to go to the World Championship, I should do another competition beforehand, see how I am compared to other people.
Right.
And that's when I heard about online competitions, but I saw it was very strong in America and very established. And then I thought, okay, obviously somebody must be doing this here. And then I saw it wasn't really a thing. But then I think it was the UK Jigsaw Association. They offered a competition and I signed up straight away and paid. And then I got the message back saying, sorry, we don't send to Germany.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was really disappointed. And then it was like straight away, there was like a refund. They weren't sure how many they were going to sell. And then basically They wanted to see how many tickets they sold. Then they were going to tell Ravensburger. Then they were going to send them the product. And they just weren't sure if they would have enough time to then send it to Germany.
Got it.
That was like, oh, there's an opportunity, but then unfortunately not. And then the Vienna Jigsaw Puzzle Association Puzzle Club decided to offer one. But it was still some weeks in the future. I think maybe it was in March, possibly.
And what time frame are we talking about at this point? Are we in February at this point?
Yeah, so now we're like first or second week of February. And basically I signed up to this one for the Vienna Jigsaw Puzzle Club, but it was still going to be some weeks before it actually happened. And I was still looking and searching. And then I just said to my husband, like, surely there must be other people like me who want this. Like, let's do this. And he was also like once I had basically presented the idea and what it involves and what people like me might be looking for, and hey, look at the participant list, and look, there's already 1,000 people registered. I don't know if it was 1,000 people at that point, but there was already at least, several hundred at that point. And there were already a lot of Germans as well. So then I basically said, hey, like, let's just start this. And he was like, yep, let's do this. And so basically the next day, he took one of our online shop templates and made a speed puzzle logo, and bam, we had a speed puzzle shop. So that was already like the first step.
That's awesome. So you had a shop. Did you have an idea what you were going to do when people purchase things? Like, was there a thing to purchase right away?
Did the first idea was actually just a shop for 500-piece puzzles, because I realized pretty quickly, well, okay, I've got these ones from the online shop from Ravensburger, but I should also get other 500-piece puzzles, and maybe it's cheaper to buy them secondhand. So I actually went and bought some from people who were living in Trier, but still it was a bit weird. It was like, I'm driving half an hour to buy 3 puzzles from somebody for like €5 each. And it's like, this is such a good use of my time. And then I went to the toy and game stores in Trier and went specifically looking to buy some 500-piece puzzles. And what I very quickly realized is that it's a very kind of niche thing. So they would have like one big wall of 1,000-piece puzzles, really big selection. They would have a big wall of kids' puzzles, and then they would have maybe like 4 or 5 500-piece puzzles.
Interesting.
And so I was kind of annoyed. I was like, well, I just went to all the shops that we have in Trier that sell puzzles, and they have such a small selection. And then I went online, and then I've just found shops that were just enormous, and they just had so much of everything, but like quite hard to kind of find what you want. And then so the first idea was, let's just make a shop for speed puzzlers with a big selection of 500-piece puzzles. And also that we would tie the results. And so if you click on a puzzle, it also has the list link to the results for that puzzle. And so if it's used from the World Championship, you can see straight away what was the fastest time, what is the average time, etc. And then basically a couple of days later, it was like, well, if we're going to do so we'd already decided, okay, we're going to do this online shop. And then it was just a couple of days later that I realized, well, let's just do the online competitions as well.
I get the sense that you're the kind of person who, when you see an extension of an idea, you're the kind of person who just keeps adding into those sorts of things. Are you such an unstoppable force of will that you can make all of these things happen? Like, you're already taking on more things than I can even hold in my head, much less execute on. So I'm sort of in awe about this whole thing. So I'm curious as to how you how you just keep adding and adding and adding and how that works for you.
Well, my husband always says, like, start small and then test the market. So it's
Mhm.
not that we started with 100 people in the competition with 6 competitions per month. Like, we started, I think it was like 2 in April and maybe 3 in May, but then the 2 in April. So, and we had like 45-ish people in the first couple of competitions, but they sold out so quickly. And then I realized, okay, maybe we can squeeze in another one here. That's why at the very beginning it goes like 1, 2, 4, 8, 5,
Mhm.
something like that,
Mhm.
just because it sold out so quickly and people were saying, like, can you give more? And I was like, okay, well, rather than waiting till June to add some more competitions, how about we squeeze in another one here? So I did that a few times, which Eric didn't like because he doesn't like it when the numbers are not consecutive. But I was like, but people want it. Like, we need to do this. We need to keep people happy. So I feel like the Euro Jigsaw Jam is like, we organize it, but I feel like it's kind of owned by the community because it's like
Mhm.
their ideas and their demands is what drives it, and we just like respond and kind of make it work. And I mean, we did not go into it with the idea of a live stream. That was a comment that somebody made underneath my first post on Instagram. I said, we're going to have these online competitions, and then somebody said, oh, is there going to be a live stream? And I have never watched a live stream of anything, and it did not even occur to me. And then I kind of showed it to my husband, kind of like joking, like, oh, look, somebody asked, is there going to be a live stream? And he's like, yeah, okay, we can do that. And I'm like, no, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? And he's just like, yeah, you just talk and say what people are doing. Um, like, that was not part of my original plan, but it's like everybody's feedback comes into it and we always just try to improve it and respond to what people want. So yes, we don't know where it's going to head. I don't know how it's going to look like in 6 months' time and in a year's time. Like, basically, every time we do a launch, we add something new. Like this year in January, we started the flex competitions. Then we added the 50 plus clubs. Then we added unreleased puzzles. Now we're doing the double trouble. And we added 1,000 piece puzzle competitions as well, which was also a request from the community. So I'm just, yeah, trying to respond to the participants and keep them happy.
And you find that as you get it up and running, you gain a certain level of mastery or familiarity that creates space for new ideas to be actually executed on, or do you just take it all on and like you'll figure it out as you go?
Yeah, we just basically start and we figure it out as we go. But something that I really learned, like something that was very new for me with this project, as opposed to running an online shop or the other parts of the business that we have, was trusting strangers, like
Mm,
random people on the internet. Because at the beginning, I was doing the live stream and switching up the cameras and also trying to catch the fastest people.
right?
And then I realized, well, if I'm going to do that at some point, like, there's a limit of how many people I can have in the call. So I think we got up to about 60 people. And then I was like, that's my limit. And so I explained that. I said, look, it's going to get too chaotic. So we're going to try and keep it at that. And then I don't know if somebody suggested that or if I just realized it myself. Then I thought, well, if I had somebody like helping me, maybe I could have more people in the call. And so I just put a message out there on Instagram and said, is there someone who would be interested in just helping me, just watching people and just telling me who's going to be the next to finish? And somebody also suggested to have like a co host. And that was also something that I had never even crossed my mind. And then I also just put out a message, is there anyone out there who thinks that they would like to be a co host on the live stream? And I just put this message out with no idea who's going to respond. And then I started to get messages and from people that I didn't know, or maybe I did follow them, but I didn't really know them. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I'll put you into the schedule. And so it was a huge leap of faith. And now it's like for me, that is like one of the biggest gems of this whole experience. Like, these people are now like my friends. Like, we communicate on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
we've puzzled it on a team together. I just made a call out for volunteers, and the people that responded are amazing. And yeah, it's just a huge leap of faith to basically put someone into a schedule that is like a stranger on the internet, and then you have no idea, and then it's like, wow, this person did an amazing job.
I want to circle back to the sort of lead up to the first competition because I imagine that a lot of decisions had to be made, a lot of things had to be figured out. What was the process in getting from the site is up to actually getting to the first competition?
Yeah, so the first thing was contacting suppliers. So I knew straight away that I wanted it to be a range of suppliers, so not just Ravensburger. I definitely wanted Ravensburger in there for sure, but I also saw that there were so many other European companies that offered 500-piece puzzles, and so I wanted to offer a selection. I wanted them to be mystery puzzles that you wouldn't know what it's going to be. And so I would have to order from several companies. So I got those things up and running straight away. I think it's easier. And I think that one thing that helped us to hit the ground running is that we were already a business. Like I know there are many
Mm.
people out there who have the idea of running online competitions, but they're not a business yet. So it takes them some time before they get set up. And it was basically me just writing an email. Yep, here's my business details. Bam. Okay, here's the access to our website. Go ahead and order. So we were getting deliveries pretty much straight away.
I feel like, especially with jigsaw puzzle companies of a certain size, their ability to deliver quantity in a specific time frame may be a little up in the air. Did you have any struggles with that, or were you placing orders and getting stuff pretty much right away and it was not a problem, or did you give yourself plenty of time for that stuff to work itself out?
I assumed that it would take a few weeks, but that we should have everything ready fairly quickly. I mean, I did have an original date. I think my first date was for the 1st of April, somewhere like at the beginning of April. And then I did shift it like 2 weeks back. I was maybe a bit over ambitious there. But also I hadn't done an online competition yet. So I basically committed to this idea that I was offering it, but I was still waiting for this beginner jigsaw puzzle club to come
Uh-huh.
along. And I was kind of like, yeah, maybe I should actually participate in one first before I actually offer it. I could imagine what would take place, but I was like, yeah, there's probably something I haven't thought about. And of course, it was a very good idea to wait to actually participate and then to help that inform me before running one myself. So I set up the Instagram account. But yeah, no, I found some distributors that offered puzzles from multiple brands. So that also helped that I could just order like 2 or 3 brands
Nice.
from one company,
Yeah.
and then the smaller brands, they tend to have very good access, like direct access. You can talk to them. So I really enjoy dealing with the smaller brands because you can talk directly to the business owners and not have to go through like some third party.
How did the Vienna competition inform your process? You said that, I assume that was the one where you said you learned some stuff, or at least you had the opportunity to learn some stuff that you might be able to apply. What did you learn there?
Well, they used Google Meet. That was my actual first time to use Google Meet. I don't know what I was planning to use. I mean, no, I mean we use a lot of Google in our business. Basically, all the stuff we do is Google Documents, Gmail, and all
Mhm,
that. So
mhm.
I think that was kind of like a natural progression. But that was my first time to actually be in a Google Meet and to see how it was run, to see how, I mean, I've been in Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams and things like that, but just specifically be a bit more in the Google meeting was interesting, but also how they recorded the results and the timing and what was said and what wasn't said. So basically, there was like a little introduction, and then it was like, okay, 3, 2, 1, puzzle, and then it was quiet. And I don't even know, I can't even remember if they even announced when somebody finished, the first person to
Mhm.
finish. There was no commentary. And then I remember finishing, and it was a round puzzle from Ravensburger, one of the Little Sun collection. This was quite difficult, but I did finish within the time limit. And yeah, I was really excited that I finished within the time limit. I think I came 15th out of 60-ish people.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah. So I was thrilled. Like I was dancing around. I puzzle in my kitchen. I do my competitions in the kitchen because I have like a standing bench and like at the kitchen island. And yeah, I was doing a little happy dance afterwards. But I was like, I had such a great feeling. I was like, wow, this is so much fun. And I want people to have this experience too.
So it added jet fuel to the fire of your idea then.
Yeah, I was like, this is definitely a great idea. And yeah, we can offer this.
And then so you you receive the puzzles into your house. The next thing I assume you're bringing them into your house, or since you have a business, maybe you have other facilities for that, and then you've got to ship them right back out. Was there any challenge in terms of getting the puzzles back out to people that you ran into for the first time?
Well, I knew I didn't want to put them in plastic bags. So one of the first, not a challenge, but just something we had to think about was, what do we do with the puzzles that it is not visible, how to make it a mystery puzzle. And I know that in some other places, it's very typical to send out these black plastic bags, these plastic envelopes. But since we're a company that's based on sustainable values, it was like, well, there's no way we are going to be buying plastic bags. So then we looked at cardboard boxes, but then a cardboard box is quite a significant cost, not if you're only sending one, but if you're going to be sending like hundreds of them, like it's going to be a significant cost. And then I just happened to be in one of our storage rooms and I saw these huge rolls of wrapping paper. And I was like, aha, I know how we're going to make them mystery puzzles. And we're going to use these rolls of wrapping paper that we've had sitting in our offices for like 5 years.
When you wrap them, do you enclose them in anything else, or is the wrapping paper sturdy enough to survive shipping?
Yeah, I would say 99.99% of the time. Like every now and then it might be that it gets a little bit scraped, and that like a corner might come off or something. And then somebody sends me a message like, oh no, I just wanted to tell you that the corner came off, but I taped it up straight away and I didn't look. Like people really care about that. Like they really don't. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the fun, right? Is the unveiling. And so you don't want to know. And plus a lot of puzzlers are rule followers. So you want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that thought, like some people are like, well, yeah, but you could just like unwrap it and then like do the puzzle. And then, like non-puzzlers would say this, like, you just unwrap it, do the puzzle and put it back in the box again. And then you would know it already. And I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. Like you're just cheating yourself. You're ruining your own fun. There's something about it. Like, it's just kind of by chance that we had the wrapping paper. So how we even came to have like massive rolls of wrapping paper in the first place is the company that we rent our building from used to have a paper business, and they had all types of papers, stationery, decorative papers, office supplies, and all that. And then when they decided to close their business, they did like a clear out sale, and we were looking at the building at the time, considering would we move in here. And they had big rolls of wrapping paper, and I bought a few of these rolls on sale, thinking, oh yeah, since we're going to be having a physical store in Trias, or a brick and mortar store for our other products, and some of these products will be purchased as gifts, we can have that as gift wrapping there. I grossly overestimated how much wrapping paper we would go through in a few years, and so we just had big rolls of wrapping paper, just in a storage room. And but I think it's become kind of one of the iconic things about the Euro Jigsaw Jam. Like people love their gifts to themselves. Some people say it's that they love unwrapping their orders from us, and they display them. People like to send pictures of how they've displayed them. Like, this is my competition shelf. And every day that we have a competition, people take pictures of the puzzle of the day next to like a vase of flowers or next to their window. So I don't regret it in any way that we went down that path, and I think it's just like a fun thing.
Yeah, who knew that? Like, it's just one of those things you can't predict, right? You made a choice based on qualities that you guys were looking for in running your business and what was at hand, and then it becomes iconic. You weren't looking to do something maybe that was particularly a statement, but it becomes a thing that is a core component of what everybody enjoys about your brand. Do you use different wrapping paper for every competition?
We are trying to. So, I mean, when we do the launches roughly every 8 weeks, we will sell about 10 to 12 competitions at a time. And from that, we will have about 8 or 9 different wrapping papers. So some will be reused a second time, but there will be a nice selection.
Right. And I assume there's labels that tell them which competition everything is for.
Yeah, because sometimes we might run out midway of a wrapping paper, and then we might take a second wrapping paper. So it might be that when people join the call, they get a bit of a fright because they're like, hang on, these people have got this wrapping paper. Mine is yellow and theirs is orange. Like, what's going on? And then I always have to remind them, don't worry, we use the wrapping paper until it's empty, and then we start another one. It's the number that counts. It's the label that counts.
So you sent out a bunch of wrapped puzzles. How was your wrapping skills before you got started here, and how are they now? Because I imagine you must have wrapped hundreds of boxes now.
Yeah, so it's definitely been improved and optimized and made as efficient as possible.
Do you do them all yourself?
No, at the beginning, I was like sharing it. I did a lot myself, and then I was sharing it. But then the quantities just got bigger and bigger, and then it just got more delegated. And then, like, if my daughter was there during the holidays, then she would take some. Now it's mainly one person who does it. It's basically so when they're not picking orders, like it's something that it can always be done. It's not like super urgent. It's not something that has to be done this morning, but basically all the other stuff gets done. And then depending on how many hours are left of the day, then it's a nice change to step away from the warehouse and then to wrap some puzzles. So that seems to be working out quite well.
You wrap the puzzles, you ship the puzzles, people receive the puzzles, and then you were gearing up for the very first actual event. Were you nervous about that?
Yes. Like, I just had no idea what I was supposed to say on a live stream.
So it was the live stream specifically that was the area of concern. Like,
yeah, because the one competition that I had heard, that I had been in, there was no commentary. It was completely silent. And then the only thing I had to compare it with was like Valerie at the World Championships, which was
the whole other side of that spectrum.
Yeah, and I was like, well, where am I supposed to be? And like, I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. And then my husband was trying to like coach me and be like, okay. So he likes archery. And he says, like in archery, the commentary, it matches the mood, and if you watch chess or snooker, the commentary matches the mood. So it's very quiet, it's calm, there'll be gaps where nothing is said. And then I'm like, yeah, but that's not how the World Championships was. Like, that's not what I'm thinking is like Valerie at the Worlds. But he's saying like, so puzzling is like that. It's calm, and it's not, because I got really excited. Like, it's amazing. It's impressive. Like, and I wanted to express that. So I hadn't found my flow. I was completely nervous. I was shaking the whole time. And I was really nervous because people are watching and people are commenting. And this is just the first thing I'm doing something. But it was really nice. And then Eric was just like, yeah, and you just do interviews. And I'm like, yeah, but what do I ask people? Yeah, ask them about this. Ask them what puzzles they do in their country and how they train and things like that. So somewhere I found a flow, and it got better after time. And then it's definitely helped having a co-host. I mean, because each co-host, they bring in their own personality and they bring in just a really different energy, and it just works really well. So I'm really grateful to have that. It would be weird to go back to nothing, to myself.
Yeah. So in the major competition, virtual competition in the US, Jonathan Clough's speedpuzzling.com effort, it is more like you were describing prior. There's a intro commentary that Jonathan gives, and then the competition starts and everybody's on mute. It's quiet the whole time. There's no indication that anybody has completed anything in an audio way. Nobody is announced as being the winner. There aren't any subsequent interviews. You sort of do the thing, you move away. It sounds like your experience with the Vienna competition as well. In your case, you decided that amongst all of the things you were going to try at the very first thing, like where, you've got a lot of logistics to manage. You've got to make sure people are checked in, their camera angles are set so you can actually watch them. You're going to have to time these people and have some idea of when to time. So you said, why the heck not just talk at the same time? Because why not an extra thing? And then, if that runs out, then we can start interviewing, which is another thing you have to think about. So you're doing all of these things simultaneously. How did the people who were participating in that first Euro Jigsaw Jam take to the commentary? Because one of the reasons it isn't done as much in the United States is because it can be very distracting for the people who are puzzling, or add stress or confusion or that sort of thing. So was it the kind of thing that people embraced immediately?
Well, the purpose of the commentary was always for the viewers. So for the participants was always secondary. And we knew that there would be people who would find it distracting and who would turn it off and listen to their own music. But I think there were also people who wanted to experience that, because, you hear people talking all the time about, oh, I was at the World Championships and then a cameraman stood next to me and then I just froze and I couldn't put the pieces together.
Oh, that's a really
And
interesting point.
and people would say also, when Michelle mentioned my name, suddenly it was like I forgot how to puzzle, you know. And but some people wanted that. They were like, oh, I need to be able to practice that because, at the World, so there are going to be cameras standing next to me. There's going to be a judge. I can't freak out just because somebody, suddenly I have attention. So some people, they go through phases. Like I would say now, the majority of like the fast people don't listen to the commentary because they just want to focus and do the best that they can. And I would say more of like the casual fun speed puzzlers, they do enjoy listening to it, and it's part of the experience.
Yeah, I enjoy when you call some folks' name and they just sort of like wave at the camera, like they're having a good time. They're happy to be as part of the conversation. Like it feels friendly. You started this process up in part to train yourself for Worlds or to give yourself opportunities for Worlds. And you see where this is going to go. But before we get there, did that continue to be training for Worlds for your participants? Did that continue to be a primary focus of this? Because I can imagine a lot of people might join just because they enjoy this competition themselves, and then maybe they're not going to go to Worlds.
Yeah, so it was definitely one. I would definitely want it to be a platform to train for Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I'm sure that I could see that there were like in-person competitions popping up around the place, not everywhere, but like there was already a competition in the Netherlands, there was a competition in the UK, and definitely in Spain. Of course, they've got things going. But I was thinking, I'm surely these people also want to know how they stack up against people in other countries. So that was like the main intention, was firstly also for the fast people to have an opportunity to not only like once per year to race some other fast people, but that they could race them quite regularly. But also that people like me who are just getting into the sport can be like, oh, I'm going to do my first competition and I'm going to see what it's like, and see where it goes.
Circling back to the implied question from just a second ago, I have data that I collect about people's entries into competitions and how they performed. And I have exactly 2 for you that are not Worlds. Now, my data doesn't go up to right now. It's all the way through February. I need to update it. But that implies that perhaps you're not getting the opportunity to train yourself as much for Worlds as maybe you might have hoped. Is that actually true?
Yeah, so basically, between starting the competition and going to Worlds, I participated in one in-person event which I organized myself. And I realized that participating in a competition I organize myself is not the best. The reason is people will probably think, oh, yes, because you chose the puzzle.
Mhm.
Well, no, I chose a puzzle that I had not done. So that wasn't the topic. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that there is a certain amount of organizational stress that goes into a competition. Like
Absolutely.
I did not sleep the few nights before. I was like dreaming. I was lying awake at night, kind of half asleep, half dreaming. Have I got enough puzzles? Do we have enough puzzles for everybody? What if I forgot to count this? Have I thought about this? Have I thought about it?
Mhm.
And then we turned up at the event. So this was the EJJ Trio. This was in August 24. We turned up on the morning of the event and half the tables were missing. So the first 2 hours, we were just grabbing tables from everywhere. Like, okay, that was supposed to be the puzzle swap room. Okay, now the puzzle swap is on the floor. We're taking those tables. There was an area set up for the afternoon tea. No, we're taking those tables for the competition. My husband and my brother-in-law, they were getting a wagon and pulling in tables from the restaurant. And this is all happening like while people are arriving, like, hi. I'm like, hi, yeah, have you heard we don't have enough tables? Yeah, I'm kind of busy. And then basically by the time that was sorted, we had some people set up as volunteers. We did a rundown of everything, of how we're going to take times and do all that. We were ready to go. Yeah, and then I did the introductions. Then I sat down at my chair, and then my husband did the countdown. And I had a completely different. I didn't have those pre-game nerves that you would expect going into a competition. I was like basically relieved that actually we have enough tables and everybody has a puzzle. And I didn't forget that, like it was just completely different feelings. And so my body completely relaxed at that moment. And I felt like I just went all kind of like soft and floppy. And I didn't have that energy that I would want to go into it, my first solo competition.
I know that some people feel like the sort of adrenaline, that energy, that nervousness helps sort of kick you off quickly. And other folks say that maybe is a distraction and makes you sort of jittery and hard to focus, that sort of thing. So you found in this particular case, the oasis that you suddenly entered into, which is not having to be responsible for all of the logistics that were chaotically going on. Like right now, for this hour and a half, you are focused. Like your job is to do this one thing, which isn't doing the 100 things you were doing like 10 minutes before. That kind of calm that came over you wasn't particularly helpful for your competition.
Yeah, it wasn't the, like I had anticipated that having a bit of some pre competition nerves would give me like a little boost at the beginning, but I didn't have that energy running through my veins once the countdown started. It was just like, okay.
Your sense of urgency sort of abandoned you.
Yeah, and also just my hands couldn't move fast, and it was just like, okay, I'm just settling in here. I mean, I still got a good time. I think it was just like maybe like somewhere between an hour and 10 minutes. But so I was happy with that time. Yeah, but it was just a very different experience organizing a competition. So basically going to the Worlds and participating in the preliminary round was like my first like real competition.
Despite having gone way out of your way to create an environment where you could get a lot of experience competing.
Yeah, it didn't really work out there. It doesn't make sense, actually. I need more competition experience, so then I'll organize like 50 competitions for other people. So
I mean, I sort of get it. I started this podcast so I could talk to interesting people and find out like how the experts really do the work. And now I spend so much time doing the podcast that I don't actually have time to do puzzle practice or any kind of other sort of thing. So I understand it. It's the sort of side effect about finding a passion and just chasing after it. But it is fun to think about. Do you wish in an alternate world there had been a Euro puzzling virtual competition already set up and you could have just plugged into that with somebody else running it?
No, I think this has been really good for our business and our family, and for me to find this passion. Like, yeah, I absolutely love it. And yeah, it's good for my colleagues, and like it's bringing new opportunities. Like we're now like designing our own puzzles, and yeah, my kids enjoy puzzles. I've organized puzzle competitions at other places, so not for like church events or like if family related events, and people have been telling me, and people send me pictures later of like, hey, after that event we started doing puzzles again and things like that. So it's helping us to spread the joy of puzzles even wider. So if I hadn't found this opportunity, like it was, the opportunity kind of found me. I wasn't specifically looking for it, but the opportunity found me. If I hadn't found that, I don't know what I would have been doing the past year, honestly.
I mean, you would have been doing something in the puzzle space, it sounds like, because Karen immediately convinced you that there was a passion to chase there. What it was might just be different.
Yeah, I would like to clarify. I mean, there were other providers of online competitions, but it was more country focused and more sporadic. For example, Giucari from Italy. So that is run by Salvatore, and he had been running several online competitions, but just focused on the Italians. And then somewhere around midway last year, he opened that up to international participants as well. And since then, there are actually several other competitions offering online competitions. Some are more international and European wide, and others are more focused on their country. So I'm very grateful to them because I get to participate in their competitions, and they participate in mine. Yeah.
What are some of those competitions? I'm actually not aware of them.
So there's Giucari from Italy, and Salvatore does the live stream in Italian. Then there's Les Puzzles de Blitz from France, and there's a live stream in French. Szybicki, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, Szybicki Puzzle from Poland with a Polish live stream. Puzzle Studiert from Denmark with a Danish live stream. There's one in the British Isles called the Puzzle Guzzle, but I don't know if they're doing a live stream. I haven't seen any link to that yet. And then there's Oulala in France, which is a smaller social speed puzzling event. So yeah, so there are different options out there available, and each one has their own unique like target base, and I've participated in most of them. And yeah, so I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm happy that there are others popping up because I get to participate in theirs, and it's also reaching other audiences because there are many people who might find out about speed puzzling and would like to take part in a competition, but not necessarily be on like the stage of the European, going up against the best in the world.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because you have attracted some of the world's best jigsaw players to your competitions, which is amazing. Did that just happen organically because they were finding the same gaps that you were? But also, to your point, that creates a barrier potentially of intimidation for people who are not the world's best to maybe not want to compete in that. So I'd be curious to hear you talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so when I started the Euro Jigsaw Jam, I definitely wanted to attract like the exciting players and offer them the opportunity to race each other. I did reach out via Instagram, which is an amazing tool. If you follow enough speed puzzle accounts, you find out who's who and how you can contact them. So I did write to Kristen, Alejandro, Teresa. I wrote basically I found one person from every country. So there were different associations forming, and I basically invited one person from every country to join the Jigsaw Jam, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. I mean, Alejandro said yes straight away. He was like, "Yep, this is something that I need. This is something I've been looking for." Kristen was up for it straight away. So it was quite fortunate. They both were able to join in quite early. So from the second puzzle competition onwards, they were in there. And so the first puzzle competition, Chiara was there, and then the newcomers, Hannah, that was her first entry into like the speed puzzling world, and then Tobias, I think so it was Chiara, Hannah, and Tobias who were on the podium on the first competition, and Tobias was known because he'd been at the Worlds the year before, and I think a lot of people were just curious and were like, okay, what is this? Let's watch the first one, let's take part, and let's just see how it goes. And then when they saw like what kind of an event this was, it really gave them a lot of motivation to come back and join in some more. And then when the next one came up and I said, oh, by the way, we have Kristen participating and Alejandro, it was like, okay, this is something serious. So I think I really am grateful for them that they took my idea seriously and were in straight away. And I think that definitely gave it a lot of credit that other people saw, okay, this is something worthwhile, and people wanted to have the opportunity to race against the world champion. And
Which Hannah was that, by the way?
Hannah from Finland, Lehe.
Oh, yeah. There are just a large number of Hannahs out there, many of whom are very competitive. So just want to make sure I got the right one. There aren't as many Tobiases out there, so I don't have to ask about that as much.
Yeah.
Did the competitions grow really fast in terms of the number of people who wanted to participate?
Yeah, they did. So they kept on reaching their maximum, and that was at the point that I realized that I needed to ask for help. And I just realized that if I wanted it to grow and to be able to meet the demands of the community, then just doing it all by myself was not enough. And that's when I started to ask for volunteers to co-host and to be like a virtual assistant. So be in the meeting and just watching what else is going on and then letting me know if I need to change up the screen. And so since we've implemented that, that's definitely allowed me to increase the number of participants in the meeting and to make it smoother as well, that we get more finishes on screen.
Yeah, because one of the things that you do, which I love, is that you try and make an opportunity for everybody to appear on the screen at some point. But that has a sort of built-in tension, is that if you're not going fast enough, you're not necessarily able to give complete coverage to the fastest things that are going on. There may be people who are nearly done. So you have spotters now who are paying attention and being like, okay, just keep in mind, I see this one happening and this one happening.
I'll be receiving a message saying, put Victor on right now. You need to put Victor on. I'm
That's
like,
right.
but I'm only at S. Wait, I'm getting there. No, he's going to finish in 2 minutes. Okay, let's jump to Victor.
Yeah. Yeah, the number of things that you must be coordinating in real time seems daunting. Obviously, you're keeping track of what is going on in terms of like, does everybody still have their cameras on? But then, keeping track of like where you are and like showing alphabetically or reverse alphabetically the entire field, plus who's out there that might need to be brought up into the stream real quick because they're nearing finishing, plus commentary. Did you find that overwhelming to begin with, or was it like, are you able to sort of multitask in that way pretty straightforwardly?
Well, we're now up to like number 74.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically just trial and error it and improve and optimize. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I realize something's not working and then try to fix it up next time, whether it be running out of time because we're chatting too much at the beginning, or the introductions are taking too long, and it's actually a fast puzzle, like things like that, and realizing, okay, next time if it's going to be a fast puzzle, maybe I just put like the main person on the screen from the beginning onwards, and then, yeah, it doesn't matter. So we did do that. So like there was one time, Christian from Poland, I got to him, like by the time I'd finished the introductions, and then it was like 2 minutes later he finished. So we only had him on the screen for like 2 minutes. And then the next time I was like, okay, he's also participating. So we kept him on the screen the whole time so that we could basically see the formulation. We're like, okay, we know he's going to be up there near the front. There are other fast people in here too, but let's just take the time to enjoy his performance. And so I was able to get through all the introductions, and then we basically saw him finish. So things like that, just adapting it like to the different combination of people in the meeting. It's different every time. Sometimes it's like the World Championship final. Other times we have a hard puzzle, and like the one we just did like a few days ago. The first finish was at 15 minutes. So we had plenty of time to do all the introductions and have a bit of chit chat in between. So
Speaking of hard puzzles, it seems like there are a few puzzles along the way that you chose that maybe were harder than you might have anticipated them being. How has your ability to select puzzles and have some idea of how challenging they're going to be changed over time?
Well, I can still misjudge puzzles after all this time. Yeah, so the one that you're probably thinking of is like we had a 50 plus competition, which is for people who are not in like the top elite range of puzzles. So we can divide it by 50 minutes and say people who've done a first attempt under 50 minutes 6 times or more, then they are in the sub 50 group. And then those who are still like kind of like trying to get under 50 minutes and everybody else are the 50 plus club. And then I chose a puzzle for that competition without really thinking about it. And then once I actually did the puzzle, I was shocked because it took me like an hour and 26 minutes.
Which puzzle was this?
This was like a flowery one from Nathan. It was like just completely filled with watercolored flowers. It was very pretty. And I remember looking at it and thinking, okay, yeah, that's a section, and there's that section. It's going to be okay. But I hadn't actually done it before. And when I finally did it, like some weeks out, I was like, well, what have I done? These are like the slower people. They're going to be looking forward to an easier puzzle. What have I done? Like it stressed me out, and I just didn't want to make that mistake again. But I mean, the first thing, so I was doing this puzzle, and then my husband walked into the kitchen, and I was telling him, oh, this is really hard. What have I done? And he's like, yeah, but haven't you figured it out by now? What makes a fast puzzle and a hard puzzle? I'm like, apparently not. Like, I think there is still puzzles that are going to surprise you.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who choose puzzles for competitions, and it is a dark art. It is hard to predict all the time which things people are going to find hard or not. I was hoping to get out of your brain maybe some secret sauce that you had figured out about that, but it can be challenging. Yeah, I don't think I'm not yet aware of something that you can just say, well, these things are obviously going to make a fast puzzle.
Yeah, because it's also the combination of like the painting style and how much dead space there is. And how dense the like, I like busy puzzles, but like if you have the density of the busyness, you know, and the backgrounds, you can have objects in the foreground and then you can have like colors in the background, and that all has an impact on yeah, what makes the puzzle harder or faster. I mean, I also don't have that much experience. I've only been doing puzzles properly for like a year and a half, so
You've only chosen something like 70 something puzzles.
yeah, but I was figuring it out myself. But I did go for easier puzzles at the beginning. But the thing is, so something that I have to face is that as more competitions pop up, whether it be nationals across all the countries, or if it being online competitions by other providers, my selection of possible puzzles is getting smaller and smaller.
Interesting.
And for me, I have placed a very high value on having a puzzle that is going to be as new for as many people as possible. And of course, at the beginning, it was a lot easier because there was just not that many puzzles being used. And so you could say, well, there's a pretty puzzle, and this one looks really fun, and that one's got really nice colors. But then, when those ones are done, you have to go to the harder puzzles, the puzzles that people are less likely to do. And then also, if you use Instagram, you see which puzzles people buy and which puzzles people are doing for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see, I've seen like 10 people post this puzzle, and then I check up on myspeedpuzzling.com, which is an amazing resource. I can see how popular a puzzle is. I can also see, like, if I see a puzzle's been done 200 times, I'm not going to pick it for a competition. Yeah, so that's something that I have to deal with, is that the selection gets smaller, but it also means that it's more likely that the puzzle choices will be harder, because the fun ones and the easy ones are what people will buy anyway themselves, or will also be chosen for other competitions.
For at least a while, there was a very active effort in trying to guess what puzzles were, and folks would try and guess and then practice them in advance. What is your perspective on that?
I found it very amusing and surprising. It's not something that I expected. I mean, I knew people would be curious the first time that they received it. And the thing is, for Europe, it was completely new. So, of course, people would kind of hold their box up to another of their boxes and go, oh, is it the same brand? Oh, no, it's a different shape. What could it be? I did not expect the extent that some people might go to guess the brand or even the image, which might be measuring the box, searching for those box measurements on a particular website, weighing the box, and then looking at catalogs of puzzles. Like, I honestly did not expect that, but I found it very amusing when somebody would make a guess and then they were right, because I was like, how did they guess that? But I think also in the beginning it would have been easier to guess, because I had the whole selection. And when you have like 30 puzzles to choose from a particular brand, then you're not going to choose the ugliest puzzle. You're not going to choose the hardest puzzle. You're obviously going to choose something that looks very pleasing and colorful. And so I did have kind of like the best puzzles from each brand at the beginning, I can admit, looking back on it. But now it is a bit more of a wild mix.
Is the reduction in the kinds of puzzles that you can choose, because as you said, there are a lot more puzzles in competitions these days. There are a lot more competitions. Is that part of the reason that you decided to do your own puzzle?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. What is the other reason?
You didn't have enough things to do. I mean, it feels like, this is another place where you're like, well, I'm really busy at this, so let's try and make it harder.
So, okay, I think in America you have a lot more selection of 500-piece puzzles. In Germany and in Europe, it's a lot smaller compared to 1,000-piece puzzles, and many brands have a very small selection. So if I rely completely on what is being offered on the market, at some point I'm like kind of through the catalog. And of course, Ravensburger keeps bringing new ones out every like two or three times per year, but they kind of all get snapped up right away by the people who want to participate in Worlds, because they think these are going to turn up at Worlds, or these are going to turn up at my nationals. So I have the pressure on one side of like, what am I going to get from the suppliers? Like, it's not that they're keeping up. I mean, we're doing like 6 competitions per month, so I'm getting through a lot of puzzles, but I don't feel that there are 6 or more new 500 piece puzzles being brought onto the market every month. So it's kind of getting squeezed at that side. And then on the other side, when other competitions start up, and then so it has been that they've used some puzzles that I had already purchased and were in my warehouse, or I had already sold but hadn't been used yet, and then they popped up in another competition. It's not such a big deal because like the other competitions have about 20 or 30 participants from one country, and then if you look at one of my competitions, you might have 5 people from one country in my competition at a time, and maybe only 2 of those were actually in the other competitions. So there is a very small overlap, but you still don't get as much like surprise and like, woohoo, like here's a new puzzle that most people haven't seen before.
That's creating some of the positive pressure to maybe define your own space and give yourself a pipeline of puzzles that you can feel more confident haven't been done to death. People are still going to find exciting out there in the world because they're brand new, et cetera, right?
I mean, I had some ideas about what would make a really fast puzzle. So one of my goals is to design the fastest speed puzzle in the world. So I have some ideas about like putting all my knowledge of like a fast puzzle and like making it, and then like having everybody do it at the same time, and then seeing it, because like we've seen, like for example, at the Worlds, Kati and Kristen did some puzzles in 26 minutes, but they had been puzzles that they had seen before and done before. And I would really like to get some times like that with a brand new puzzle. And I think we have people who are capable of that. They just need the right puzzle.
Yeah, I have been offering up what I think is an unpopular stance, which is that I believe in the next 10 years we will see somebody first try a puzzle in under 20 minutes. So if you're building your puzzles to be as fast as possible, maybe that's how that happens.
Well, it's one of my designs. So there's one being printed right now that I designed to be like that. But the one that people have in their hands right now, no, there's 2. No, we've released one. We did one some weeks ago. That was just a puzzle themed one. Obviously, I wanted to do like something puzzle themed for the first one, and then the second one is something completely different. But we have 4 being printed right now, and one of them I'm trying to make it quite fast.
I assume that you're not telling people in advance which one that is.
No, because because I don't know when we're going to use it. I mean, I would like to use it in the next batch of puzzles that we release. So looking towards like October, November. No, hang on, where are we? September, October, around that time frame. But we've also opened it up that people can submit their artwork. So we've decided that that's something that we can do that other puzzle companies cannot do, is to then use like participant art. And so we do want to also print some of those, and we might jumble them up with some of our own puzzles with our participants' art.
It sounds like there's a real possibility that you become a for real puzzle producer rather than just creating puzzles for your own needs.
Yeah, well, it's like we have very specific needs. We want to be a puzzle producer because we have this need that we need to fill, and if we can design our own puzzles or choose the image for our own puzzles, that definitely helps. But we have some restrictions, but maybe that's also our opportunity. For example, a typical puzzle company, if they make a design, let's say they make 4 designs, then they're going to go print like minimum 2,500 of each design. And they're going to have those in their inventory, and they're going to be selling them for the next few years. And maybe 6 months or maybe in 12 months, then they produce another however many, depending on what size they are. We need puzzles often, but we don't need a ton of them. Like those quantities is just not even imaginable for us. So for us, we would need like maximum 250 pieces. So the first 2 puzzles that we got printed, we got like 130 pieces printed, and the next ones we're getting 250 pieces printed.
When you say pieces in this case, you mean
units? Yeah, times 500 pieces. So. Yeah. So on one hand, that's a restriction. We have really small quantities, but that's also an opportunity because we can produce more often. We don't have to have that puzzle sitting on our inventory for the next 3 years. Like we can basically do limited editions. and keep it rolling. So that's basically what we're thinking at the moment. Like we can mix it up. We can use some art from our participants. We've received some amazing submissions, but I think that's really exciting that participants' art could then be in a mystery puzzle that like the whole community is all doing at the same time, and then it's available for like basically until it's sold out, and then there's an opportunity for somebody else to have their art featured.
Yeah, I've seen some art by some of the folks who do Euro Jigsaw Jam, and you've got people who really can do, I imagine, a good puzzle, like do the art for it.
Yeah, it's very surprising, like who's sending in the art and what they kind of do. But I think it's going to be really fun. So I just hope that, I mean, it is a long time frame. So like the ones that we get printed now are going to show up earliest like in September, October, November. So there is that lead time, and with all the ideas that I have and the artwork that I see coming through, I'm like, oh, we have to get that printed, but then that's not going to be used until January or February. So it's just like a bit of a shame that we can't kind of put it in the competition next week. Like,
yeah, the problem you have is that you have now too much scale in terms of the volume of competitions you're doing, and now you have to, I imagine, plan well ahead in time. And as you said, getting puzzles printed and sent to you probably takes time. I assume you found a production partner that you works well for you in terms of creating these small batch one-offs.
well, we've used two companies so far. So the first two were printed in Germany, and the 3, 4, 5, and 6 they are currently being printed in Turkey. So we're trying a different company, and yeah, then we'll see what works. I assume we're going to stay with the Turkish company because, yeah, so the thing is, like, when you start printing puzzles, it's a learning experience. We knew that our first couple of puzzles were not going to be like super amazing because we don't really know what we're doing. Like, we're just getting started. And as excited as I was to do our first puzzle, once I tipped the pieces out, I realized immediately that there was some pixelation there, that they weren't as high definition print as I had hoped. And then I realized towards the end of the puzzle, when only the dark pieces were left, that they were very dark, and that the puzzle print is darker than the actual puzzle on the computer with the light shining through.
Yeah.
So those were like the first big two lessons about that. Was like, oh wow, okay. So I was quite disappointed. So I was trying to do the puzzle as fast as I can, but I was kind of crying on the inside.
Was that a test puzzle that then you sort of sent back feedback and got some changes to, or were you committed to that?
No, that was the first puzzle that we did. That was called Puzzle Vibes. This one here. This is the lady. Mm-hmm. So this is an AI generated image of a lady doing a puzzle in a very cozy environment. And yeah, it's just, yeah, the resolution was not as well as it should be. And here, everything that was a bit darker, I couldn't tell apart. It all looked black. The green, the blue, the reds towards the end, all the dark colors just looked black. And that was really disappointing. But I think it was also the time of day. The next day, I left the puzzle out, and the next day I looked at it, and I could actually see that there was differences in the shadowy parts. But just that first time I did the puzzle, I was quite disappointed.
What was the feedback of people who competed with that puzzle?
Mixed. I mean, majority was overwhelmingly positive. People were thrilled. Some people said, "Hey, that's me on the puzzle."
I mean, that was my first thought.
Somebody said their husband walked past and said, "Why are you doing a puzzle of yourself?" So some people really identified with the image. Some people really liked that it was, they liked the style of the image and really appreciated that we had made the effort to it. But of course, there was, the negative feedback about the AI part of it, mm-hmm. which was to be expected. But we were upfront about that. That's what we decided to do. And the 4 puzzles that are being printed right now are not AI generated.
Tell me a little bit about some of the formats that you've introduced. We talked a little bit about the 50 plus club. There's the EJJ Flex. You named a couple other ones that I hadn't yet heard of. I'm curious to hear sort of how you continue to transform the EJJ.
Yeah, so Up until the end of last year, we only had live streams for every competition, and it's can be quite tiring to be doing this like once or twice every week, and often interviewing the same people, and also constantly hearing that people missed out. So that was the main factor, was that every time we did like a launch of the next mystery puzzles, people would just say it's sold out in minutes. Puzzles were disappearing from my shopping cart. I got there at like 10 minutes past 9 o'clock whenever we released the puzzles, and everything was sold out. And I was just really searching for a way, how can we make the competitions bigger without making it more work? I'm like, I don't want to be doing two live streams per week, every week. Like, it's just too much. And also because I'm also coordinating the people who are helping me, like they're all volunteering their time, and there's just a lot of planning that goes into it. So I was just racking my brains, like thinking, how can we increase the competitions that more people have the opportunity to participate? And then I realized, like, if what's limiting us is that it's the live stream. There's only so many people that we can show on screen. There's only so many people that we can comment on and introduce. And theoretically, with Google Meets, you could have 150 people in the meeting, but then who do I talk about? Who do I show on screen? It's just too much. And then I realized, like, what if we make two types of meetings? We have a separate meeting which doesn't have a live stream. We can have more people in it. And I also wanted to offer like this flex component, which is that you could also do it offline, because we also had pretty much every competition. There was a few people who didn't turn up because something surprising turned up. They suddenly had to work, or they missed their train or whatever, and they missed the competition, and it just felt like a bit of a waste. And I always had to be very strict about the rules and say, sorry, you can't just send me your time afterwards. Like, it's really about everybody who's in the competition at the same time. But then I thought, if we offer a flex competition, it means more people are able to do it, and also people can also do the puzzle offline if they're not able to make that time, because some people have shift work, some people have kids, some people can't do that particular day, and I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. Yep. And so we introduced that in January, and so far it has been working pretty well, I think. Yeah, so we have an online meeting as well. So those who do want to do it in a competitive environment can join the online meeting. But let's say, for example, somebody plans to join it and then they have a headache that night. They still have 24 hours the next day to do the puzzle, film it, and then upload it.
You mentioned a couple of other formats, or I don't know if formats is the right word, that I wasn't familiar with. What are those?
Yeah, so we've introduced now the Double Trouble.
Yes.
So the new rules for the World Championships include that the preliminary rounds of individual participants will receive 2 500-piece puzzles.
Crazy.
And they have to decide in that moment which one they do. And picking the wrong puzzle could mean you could have like somewhere between 2 minutes or 15 minutes difference or more. So it's not a skill that we currently have to decide in a moment which puzzle to do. I mean, you do that at the teams competitions, but then you have 4 people talking about it and saying, well, what about this and what about that? But it's going to be a completely different type of competition when you're standing there by yourself, nervous, and have to decide which one do I do. So we're basically sending 2 500-piece puzzles, and they have to decide, just pick one. And then we're also doing it with a 1,000-piece puzzle in pairs. So there, at least the pair can talk about it for a minute or two beforehand and then decide which puzzle they do.
So they get 2 puzzles, but they're only going to do 1 puzzle.
Yes.
That feels like yet more logistical burden on your side.
Well, the solo 500-piece puzzle is actually, there's 2 puzzles in 1 box. Mm-hmm. So logistically, it's the same.
You have to source a whole other puzzle, right?
No, they're 2 puzzles in 1 box. So there's some companies in Europe, they now make 2 times 500-piece puzzles in 1 box.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But for the 1,000-piece puzzle, I have chosen 2 different brands for the 1,000-piece puzzle.
It feels like you were still inspired to continue pushing the boundaries of what EJJ could be. I'm curious as to whether you've got ideas for the future that you can share about what might come out. At
this stage, I'm just planning into the future. We just had the first time that I was not doing the commentary, so that two co-hosts were basically running the show, Catherine and Jim, and that worked out really well. So I was still in the background switching up the screens, but basically that there's one less thing for me, because there's always the chance that if I get sick, or like even in the winter, once I almost lost my voice, that I do have some backup, because if it's just me there every single time, I don't really have a backup. So we did that as a trial and it worked really well. And so now we're going to see in the next batch, there's also going to be Catherine's going to be pairing up with some other co-hosts, and I will have a break from commentary.
You're right. I hadn't thought about the fact that it really depends on you being there to sort of drive that, and your ability to get other folks to help on the volunteering side and on the co-hosting side. Seems like it would take the burden off and it allow you some flexibility. Like if you wanted to go on vacation, for example, maybe that's a thing you could try doing. It seems like interest in competitive speed puzzling is still strong, like is still increasing. I'm just curious if you have any interest in markets outside of Europe. Would you consider moving into other places? Because it feels like maybe you've got things figured out here in Europe and there are other parts of the world that are underserved, I imagine. Would you ever consider moving into those parts of the world as well?
I don't think it really makes sense unless I can choose the puzzles and then have them shipped somewhere and then processed and then sent out. I honestly haven't looked that far into the future.
Sure, fair enough. But fair to say that the Euro Jigsaw Jam continues to capture your interest and drive you forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as long as people participate in our competitions, we'll keep providing them. And yeah, I just do my best to keep people happy and keep people coming back for more.
Do you find that all of these countries starting their own associations is driving the interest in virtual competitions?
I'm not sure if it's driving interest in virtual competitions, because I think there's different type of puzzlers. Like the associations are organizing national championships, and that has a much wider appeal than an online competition. So you will see, for example, like the German nationals, they had 300 people in the individuals over 3 rounds. They also had a waiting list of 150 people, but there's not 450 people, no 450 Germans participating in my online competitions.
There are a lot of Germans, though.
There's always a lot of Germans. Yeah,
what
so
is
there's
up
always
with Germans and puzzling? Like for not being Spain, Germany is well represented in puzzle competitions.
Yeah, no, Germany has a high population and seems to be, I mean, it's the home of Ravensburger and Schmidt, so it is very normal here to be a puzzler as an adult, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not that it's just for kids, whereas in some places people think of it as just as a kids activity. So definitely people growing up with Ravensburger and having it all their lives contributes to that. But yeah, no, I think so. The associations creating the nationals, that attracts people from all walks of life, and those also who are just wanting to try something out, because a lot of people are not going to go for individuals, pairs, and teams. They'll just show up maybe just for individuals or just for pairs, and then basically take their time. And then you have other people that are just hungry like myself and just like, what next? What's the next thing? What can I do? Oh, okay, there's something in between. There's something I can do at home. Then I'm going to order these. So yeah, it definitely supports, because they also encourage people to get more involved and get people really excited about it. Yeah, but I think Instagram and YouTube probably has more impact on my type of audience.
And do you find it's continuing to grow?
Yeah, I mean, the live competitions are pretty much sold out on the same day. The live is then with the live stream. So they're always more popular, the solo competitions as well. And then it's usually the flex competitions, which because we have a higher number available as well, they don't sell out immediately. And it means that when people check the website a week, 3 weeks later, 5 weeks later, after a launch, that there's still something available to purchase and they can still participate.
Do you find that folks that you haven't heard of before show up at the Euro Jigsaw Jam and do surprisingly well? Like, are there new people who are showing up and you're getting to hear about for the first time who are maybe world-class puzzlers?
Yeah, definitely. From the first one. So the first one, it was Hannah. Hannah from Finland. That was her debut because, she had decided she wanted to go to the World Championships, and there had been a Finnish nationals announced, but she already had some plans on that weekend, and so she wasn't able to go to that. And so she was very keen to be able to have some competitions to participate in the meantime, and yeah, ended up winning the first one, which was really exciting. Inga from the Netherlands was discovered on the Euro Jigsaw Jam. Victor from Poland, Martia from the Netherlands. Yeah, there's always people turning up in the top 10 and you're like, who is this person? We've never heard of you. Where are you from? So that's always exciting. It never ceases to amaze me who might just jump into the top 10 that we haven't heard of. It's like we feel like we know so many people, and yet there's always somebody there who joins a competition for the first time, and then it's like, boom, there they are.
One of my favorite things that I have seen you do a few times is sort of root for specific people, and like when somebody finally makes it to a podium after struggling for a long time to be almost there, and you're sort of cheering them along. You're like, yeah, good job, nice job, way to make it there. Like oh, I love that you're so involved in their journey as to sort of give them additional encouragement.
Yeah, well, we see that week in, week out. I mean, I get to see, the community come together on a weekly basis, and there are certain people stand out, and you get to see their journey. And like you see someone enter the top 10 for the first time, and then maybe make it a second or a third time, and they get really close to the podium. And like, it reminds me of Lenka from Slovakia. Like, she's really amazing, and she was always like so close to the podium, and then she finally made it a couple of times. So yeah, there are people that stand out, and that, but even people who are even slower people, you get to know kind of where they are, and then sometimes they do really well on a puzzle and might notice that. But I just want everybody to have a good time, whether they're someone who's going to get into the top 10 or someone who's just going to finish in the time limit.
That reminds me, you do interviews with a lot of the folks who like podium finishers on the live stream, which is amazing. I love hearing from them, and I appreciate that you do that. But also, you interview other folks who are up and comers or regulars, which I also love to hear about, like their stories. But I think the thing that I missed when I went back and was reviewing some of the competitions in preparation for this conversation is that it seems like occasionally, and maybe more often, there's really interesting content at the very end. Like you did an interview with the My Speed Puzzling folks at the very end. I think you did before Worlds an in-depth conversation with Victor about Poland. I encourage people to because I know that after a certain part of the competition, I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I'm done. I don't necessarily stay all the way to the end, and you've got some surprises all the way at the very end that make it worth listening all the way through to. So I just want to make sure that folks like watch the competition all the way to the end.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that will just watch like the first few finishes. They want to see the reveal, they want to see what puzzle is going on, and then see, like the fastest people, or maybe just see the person that they're following, their friend, their family member, and to cheer them on. But yeah, so how we've kind of got it set up is that we have a guest interview at the end in the last half hour. So we always have time for the podium interviews, but not everybody has time. Sometimes somebody has been interviewed, maybe somebody's on the podium for the fourth time in a row, and doesn't want to be interviewed again. That's fair enough. Then they don't have to stay. We always give people the option when they register if they want to be considered for an interview or not, if they're open to that. That way they don't need to wait around thinking, oh, is Michelle going to ask me to stay or not? Like they could just say, okay, yep, great puzzle, good evening, bye. And so we have time for the podium interviews. Sometimes it's all three, sometimes it's just one of them. And then towards the end, we do an interview with somebody from the community. And it might be someone who's actually participated, who has just participated in the competition. And other times it's just someone we've invited in, such as Jan and Simona from myspeedpuzzling.com. And we've had some really great interviews at the end. Like we once had Jackie from New Zealand telling us all about what's going on there in the speed puzzling scene in New Zealand. And just this most recent live stream, I can highly, highly recommend. We interviewed Annemie from Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
She participated in that competition, and we were really looking forward to interviewing her because she recently summited Mount Everest.
Wow.
And she also took a puzzle with her to the summit, and she sped run that puzzle. So it's a 99-piece puzzle. She sped run that puzzle at Camp 4, which is at 8,000 meters above sea level. And she's applying for a Guinness World Record. And regardless of that, like, she's just an amazing person. So we had such an interesting interview with her. She told us lots of stories about being at base camp, about going up the different camps, about walking over a glacier that's moving, and yeah, with deep crevasses on either side. So it's got, yeah, it has something to do with puzzling, but she's also just an amazing person in our community. And I can highly recommend that one. Like, we went way over time because at the 2 hour time limit, we were like, there's so much we haven't touched on. So we just kept on talking for another 35 minutes. And I would highly recommend that to anyone who's doing some casual puzzling and needs some company for 2.5 hours. You can either start right at the beginning and hear the whole competition, or just listen to the last hour when we interview her.
Well, I'm going to go do that as soon as we're done speaking here. As if running an online competition is not enough, you've run at least one competition in actual space. Rumor has it that you're doing a second one of these, but sounds more ambitious. Am I right that you're doing a marathon?
Yes, so it's going to be a 10-hour marathon for teams in Trier, so where I live. And yeah, it's such an amazing event. So I mean, I've been to two 10-hour events in Belgium, and joined up with puzzling friends, and we just had the best time. And the last one we did was in March, and we just came away with like, oh, we had such a great time. We need this experience. We need this feeling more. And what can we do? And we just decided, let's organize one in Germany. It was going to be the first one in Germany because this type of event is very popular in Belgium, France, and Spain, but hasn't been any in Germany yet. Another one has been planned by somebody else, and that's going to be in November of this year. But my one will be in August. And yeah, we have a lot of people already coming from around Germany, and we also have some folks coming from countries like Hungary, Ireland, Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, Finland, and the UK. So looking forward to meeting lots of people and puzzling for 10 hours.
Tell me a little bit about what is different about puzzling in a marathon. Obviously, I can imagine that it is longer, but it sounds like you're saying that there is a better opportunity to really, hang out with people, get to know them better, and really sort of deepen relationships. How does that work?
Yeah, well, firstly, you don't have like these national boundaries, which might be like, oh, for example, at the German nationals, it was like there was a Germany champion team, but if somebody on that team had a different passport, then they would be like in the international category, where they might get a puzzle as a prize, but not a trophy. So there, it doesn't really matter. Like the first one that I went to, I was part of the Luxembourgish team, and the second one, there was 5 of us, but we were from 5 different countries, and we just all met there in Belgium and just had a blast. So, and yeah, it is more about hanging out. Like, it's not just coming for one puzzle, like 1,000 pieces or maximum 2,000 pieces, and then you're done. Like, you get to try so many different puzzles throughout the day, different themes, different artwork styles, and then of course you need some breaks. But I also really enjoy the breaks because then you can hang out, you can actually watch people at the other tables. Like, that's something different that you don't have when everyone's puzzling at the same time. Like, you wouldn't just wander over to another table and check out how the fast people are doing. So there's a certain freedom. Like, you can just wander around and check out how other people are doing. And I remember the first one, both of them, Inge from the Netherlands was participating, and she's really fast. And it's just amazing if you can just watch someone who's really fast. Like, normally we see snippets of people. You just see, like, here on the live stream, you see like 30 seconds of this person and 30 seconds of that person. But if you can just stand like a couple of meters away from the table and just watch them, like, it's really mesmerizing. And there were people there who were not part of the speed puzzling bubble. They're just there for fun. And they were just like amazed and at what somebody can do, at how fast somebody can puzzle with jigsaw. So you have that element that you can just wander around and see how all the other teams are doing, and also just chat with the other teams, the other people who are on their breaks. And you bond as well because, like, you tend to bond more over the hard puzzles. but there's not going to be too many hard puzzles at my event, I can tell you.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just basically a fun. It's a bit more of a party atmosphere, and the main thing is that there's also music playing the whole day.
Oh, nice.
So it's not this silent, like, people are laughing, and sometimes, like when we were in Belgium, sometimes a French song would come on, and people would start singing in French, and it's just a different atmosphere. People are more loose and casual.
How many people are on these teams for your event?
So it's teams of maximum 6 people, but only 4 people can puzzle at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we recommend having at least 5 people, so that somebody can always have a break and you can rotate. But some people just go hard and just puzzle the whole 10 hours and only get up to pee.
Yeah.
But others, I mean, I really enjoy the breaks. I think it's great to have a break and to chat to people.
All right. So one more thing on your list of things to do then.
Yes.
Where can people find out more about this if they're interested? Is there still open registration?
Yes, we do still have some spaces for some other teams. If they go to our website, speedpuzzle.eu, and click on the link to Puzzleathon Trio, then they can find all the information there. They can also see some of the other people who are registered. And so the one thing that we're doing a bit differently is that it's not only just for pre-formed teams, because a lot of people would love to participate in a marathon, but they don't know anyone yet, or their friends can't go. So you can also just buy a ticket as an individual person, and then you can register either as a complete team if you've already found some, or that you have a team and you have spaces, or you're looking for a team. And that way people can hopefully find each other, that everybody who wants to participate can.
Yeah, I love that. I love some competitions have explicitly that built in where they're like, if you don't have a pairs or a teams, we can help you connect with that. Others don't. And I really love places that explicitly allow that, because not everybody knows a lot of other avid puzzlers, much less who would want to be there for 10 hours. And so that's part of the fun, right? Is connecting with people who share a lot of the same interests that you do, that you can sort of hang out and spend some quality time together doing something you really enjoy. So I love the accessibility of putting that explicitly into how the sign up works. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we just found out, like we know that with, for example, in pairs, a lot of people kind of get roped in. Like you have a lot of like non-puzzling partners and family members. We have a lot of kids participate in the pairs competitions, but it's a whole different kettle of fish. If you say you were going to puzzle for 10 hours, then immediately those people are like, no, that's just too long. So you do really need like other dedicated puzzlers who are as obsessed as you are.
Let's transition to the speed round. Speed round is where I'm just going to ask a bunch of quick questions. Give me your sort of gut reactions to these. We'll see where this takes us.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Gradients, patterns, or fur?
Patterns.
Patterns. Illustration or photo?
Illustration.
Busy or landscape?
Busy.
Round or square?
Round.
Wood or cardboard?
Wood.
Mm-hmm. Individuals, pairs, or teams?
Teams.
Ribbon cut or random cut?
Ribbon.
300, 500, or 1,000?
500.
Do you have a current favorite brand?
My own brand.
Fair enough. Do you have a current favorite puzzle?
Yes, I heard this in one of your recent interviews, and then I figured out a competition. I figured out one. I have an answer. EJJ 86, number 86. I can't tell you what it is.
That's not out yet.
I can't tell you which brand it is, but I can tell you I did it in 39 minutes in my first attempt. And that's my favorite puzzle.
Wow. Okay. Usually I put people's favorite puzzles on the thumbnail of this episode. That seems like that may not be possible this time.
You can put some wrapping paper on the thumbnail.
What a great idea. Fair enough. Are you going to Worlds this year?
Yep, I am.
What advice would you give Michelle that was considering starting EJJ?
Just be open to new opportunities and to receiving help from others, even if you don't know them, and take the feedback from people.
Where can people find out more about you, Euro Jigsaw Jam, sign up for events, et cetera, et cetera?
So on Instagram, it's at speedpuzzle.eu. And then our YouTube channel is Speed Puzzle Europe. And our web shop is speedpuzzle.eu.
Michelle Kasper, thank you so much for joining me on Peace Talks.
Thanks, Rob. But you forgot one question.
Oh, I did? What was the question?
You're supposed to say offline or online.
Oh.
Or in person or online. And I know every single person beforehand has always said in-person events, of course, but I'm going to be the one that says offline, not because it does not replace an in-person event, but because it gives more people the opportunity and the accessibility to join a speed puzzling competition. If anyone was going to say online, it would have to be me.
It would have to be you, yeah. Okay, well, thanks again so much for joining me. This has been a blast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob.
Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.